Welcome back to 504 Road Trips. Today I've been tasked with assembling this thing, and I'm not even 100% sure what it is because I had to use the cardboard from the box that it was shipped in for something else months and months ago, and I took it out of the box and promised to assemble it, and it sat off to the side in an out of the way place for at least 3 months, 4 months since then. And now I don't even know what it is, but I have to put it together. So we're gonna do a video on that. As you can see, I'm probably gonna have some helpers. We have a few of them and they're all over the place. So that should make things really interesting. So this is what we're working on. It's the Kitchen Joy mini greenhouse. And it has an assembly video, but we're not going to look at that. Sort of thing has to be a challenge. So they're pretty much saying the tools needed are a battery-powered screwdriver and a manual one. Doesn't say what kind of screwdriver, but I'm going to assume a Phillips. And then there's a whole bunch more instructions. I'm not going to bother with any of that. So one thing we are going to do is take an inventory of the parts. And as you can see, this is everything that we have. And everything is separated into nice little Ziploc crack baggies and lettered with a sticker that corresponds to what's on here. So I think we have everything we need. So I'm just going to jump right into the assembly. So step one here is going to be to attach this thing, which I'm guessing is a magnetic door closure, to that thing right there. So this piece right here has a little wooden dowel, and the doors already have the little metal tabs that this connects to. So this just goes right in there, and that's what's going to hold the doors closed. And we're going to use 2 of the letter B screws to screw this in. Now they've drilled holes, and just to point this out, this thing is made out of wood, and it's some kind of really lightweight wood, kind of like balsa, I guess. And this is just like corrugated plastic that's clear so you can see through it. So there's pilot holes, and consider that this might be difficult to do with one hand. Straighten this out as much as I can. So I'm going to use this to get the screws in. This thing is crooked. Use that to get the screws in, and I'm going to use this to tighten them. Just because I don't want to crack the wood. All right, step 1 is done. So now we go on to step 2, which looks really complicated. So these side walls here are completely unlabeled. And I'm just pretty much going to have to guess at which direction it goes. There's a little lip on the bottom here. The holes from top to bottom seem pretty much symmetrical. And on the side of this, there's a peg. And I don't know what, there's a screw that comes out here. So I'm gonna guess this is the inside. But I don't know whether this is the top or the bottom. The dowels aren't even close to the size of the holes. They're much smaller than the holes. So I guess that's just to get it into position. Yeah, you can get it into position so you can screw it together. But the instructions here give absolutely no indication as to what's top and what's bottom. So reading ahead in the cryptic instructions, it looks like the little lip at the bottom of this wall goes in, and that's what's going to hold up the floor. So the 4 screws that hold the sidewall in, or sidewalls in, are the A screws, and they go through a pre-drilled hole here, and then it just bites into the wood. And I'm just going in deep enough to just countersink them a little bit. So that was totally wrong. If you look at the instructions number 4, in step 2, be aware that the side panels, parts 6 and 7, are not identical and needed to be fitted to the right and left sides accordingly. These side panels must have the wooden batten at the bottom facing the inside of the unit, which we figured out, and must also have the pre-fitted screws for the wall brackets, J, towards the back of the unit. This will allow the wall brackets to be fixed to a wall so that the unit can be stabilized. I did this backwards because this is supposed to be to the back of the unit, so don't make that same mistake. I don't know if I'm going to take this thing apart and reverse them, or if I'm just going to drill a hole and move this to the back, because I am probably going to have to attach it to the wall. But don't make that same mistake. Read the instructions. So now we're going to put the back on. It goes on the same way, except we already have the sidewalls in, so the pegs should line up with these holes right here. And that's a big should. So that's in, and we just use 4 more of the A screws to screw those in. Now I am using the power screwdriver exclusively because this one does have the variable speed, and I do have a lot of control over how far in I'm screwing the screw. You don't want to hit one of these screws full power on the screwdriver because it'll go right through this wood and probably crack and splinter all over the place. So the next step shows putting in the floor here, which looks like it just goes in with 1 B screw, which is going to screw into the frame under the door, and then a bunch of these letter H metal pegs that I think are going to hold up the shelves. So as far as I can tell, this is the floor, and this also has 2 little magnets on the bottom to hold the door shut at the bottom. So I think this thing's actually going to have really good door closures. So this set right in there, and then it's going to get screwed into place with the B screw. then the little letter H metal pegs go in a whole bunch of holes around the sides of this thing. And there's 8 of these that have to go in. I guess there's different levels of holes for different size, you know, for different heights of the shelves. So I'm just going to pick 2 heights, and they don't fit. Yeah, they do. So far, this is probably the most difficult part of the operation because they don't quite want to fit. There we go. These appear to be the same on both sides, but it does seem like if it doesn't fit, you can flip it around and get it to go in the other way. And the next step shows 4 letter D screws that are going to go in to, I guess, hold the floor down even more. Now these are a smaller, finer screw and probably should use a number 1 Phillips. I'm going to try it with this number 2 Phillips here and see if it works. And actually, yes, it does. So in the next step, the shelves have magically appeared inside of the thing, even though there was no shelves in this one. So I guess that's just a simple drop into place, and then we're going to use 4 of the B screws to screw the little door handles onto the doors. So these shelves have little indents for the metal pegs that we put in there, so that's going to hold them into place real well. Now these shelves don't seem like they're super strong, but I guess they'll hold up a few flower pots because that's really what this is intended for. Now there are holes drilled here, but they're not drilled all the way through. So rather than force them through, I'm using the screwdriver to get them to poke out a little bit. And I can line them up with the holes on here. About like that. And then I'm going to use the hand screwdriver. This is a left-handed operation for this door, but I don't want to take any chances of splintering this, this little handle here. Really don't work well with my left hand on this. that's it. Then we repeat the process on this door. Oh, look, that one, the screws came right through. All right, so we have door handles now. So the only thing left of this thing is the roof. So the next step is to install the roof panels, which goes in with 6 of the C-screws on either side of the little greenhouse. Those are the roof panels. Let's see how that goes. So the roof hinges get screwed into the side here, and they use these little tiny screws. They're fine threaded, and I guess they give you 6 because the screws really don't bite into the wood. They just get in there and then they strip, and it doesn't matter how careful you are with it, that's what they do. So there's just spinning. And the hinges were put into the actual roof piece at the factory. And it looks like they didn't have much better luck either. They really should have used a slightly longer screw. And I would recommend, if you're putting one of these together, just go to the hardware store and bring one of those screws and find one with the same threading and size and everything, but that's maybe a 1/4 inch longer, because there's really no reason for them to be that short. These actually seem to have bit into the wood a little bit better on this side than they did on the other side. I'm not going to over tighten the screws. I don't want to take the chance. happy with that, but I'm not a professional. So the next step in the assembly involves these little closure things here. And use a wing nut, a washer, and these things here. And now this answers my question as to what these little studs are for here, because that is what that's for. And looks like they're gonna attach right there. And then the wing nut will allow you to have the roof partially opened or closed. Once again, that's using that little C screw, and I don't want to take the chance of stripping it out. There's the wing nut, and that locks it closed. That locks it partially open. Now the only flaw that I see in this is that this little screw, this actually pivots on the little screw as you open and close it. So I suspect that that's going to end up unscrewing itself, and you're going to have to replace that screw. So this is what we end up with. And that holds them shut. Now whether this thing's hurricane proof or not, I don't know. If you're gonna put this outside on a patio, it's probably a good idea to bring it in if there's a hurricane coming. And that's something we're gonna have to watch, because I think Carrie wants to put this out on the patio. But it's actually got a little bit of weight to it, but 40-mile-an-hour wind would probably blow this away. There is an optional step here that shows you attaching these things here to the sides of the greenhouse, and then you attach them to a wall with these sheetrock anchors or wall anchors. I'm not going to do that right now. If it goes outside, then I'll have to figure something out for that, because it's probably going to be up against a brick wall, so I'm probably going to need a different kind of anchor for that. One thing I got to say, we're going to hang on to those parts there. They gave us a bunch of extra parts, and we got 2 wing nuts here. We got 4 of the little dowel pegs. Well, the 8 screws, there was none left. There was a D screw left, a C screw left, 3 A screws left, and a B screw left. And I did count them up, and they were actually extras, a couple of washers here. So they actually give you more parts than you need to put this thing together, which is good, because at one point I lost some screws on this floor here. Something got spilled there. But anyway, the screws on this terrazzo looking floor here just disappear, and I thought I was going to be in trouble, but I did eventually find them. But yeah, so you get extra hardware just in case. So anyway, that concludes our video. This was the assembly of the Kitchen Joy mini greenhouse. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Share and follow us on social media, and be sure to join us for our next 504 road trip.